When I was 4 years old, my parents bought the first PC that we ever had in the house. It was a piece of shit, but to a curious 4-year-old, this was like alien technology, and next thing you know, I'm out there taking apart the computer and putting it back together while trying not to break anything at the same time. Fast forward 20 years and here I am having all of this knowledge and teaching it to other people. And yes, I am standing on the floor right now. But what if my parents never actually bought that PC? How would I learn everything that I know today if I had to start over from scratch? So I came up with a 3-level method of exactly what I would do to go from knowing absolutely nothing to building my first PC in less than 2 weeks. Level 2 and especially level 3 of this entire process is where the most progress is made, but I can only do that if I first go through level 1. And trust me, the last level that I'm about to show you is so powerful that you can apply it to learn not only PC building, but any skill you want. Before starting, it's incredibly important that you don't make this one mistake, and as soon as you hear what it is, you'll realize that you've probably made it too. Because starting a learning journey without a clear goal is a terrible idea. So the goal isn't to become Linus Tech Tips by the end of the week. The goal is to understand PC building well enough to build a good PC. For the first week of my journey, I would go onto YouTube and just consume as much content as possible about PC building from channels that have a good reputation, like this one. On the surface, I know this may seem kind of insignificant, but I really want you to understand why this is so important. Do you remember when you were a baby? Well, I mean, you probably don't, but I'm pretty sure that you can speak and understand at least one language. And the reason for that is that when you were a baby, you listened for tens of thousands of hours to the words of those around you, and then one day you magically started speaking. Ain't that convenient? That's because the brain is a pattern recognition machine, so why not apply the same concept here too? This is the part where I want to eliminate as much confusion as possible. I would take my immersion slowly at first, just really get down those fundamentals, and then I'd learn all about the other components and then just make a list of them. Then I would learn what each component does in particular at a very simple level. Remember, we're not trying to become experts here overnight. For example, I would learn about the GPU and I'd quickly find out that GPU stands for Graphics Processing Unit, and then I'd quickly find out things like it builds the image that you see on your screen, it gives you the most gaming performance overall, and it needs to be paired with a good enough CPU so that you don't limit its potential. Notice the link that I made there with the CPU, and that's what I would focus on next. I'd learn about what the CPU does and then move on to the RAM, the motherboard, the power supply, the case, and so on, until I have a very decent understanding of what each component does in particular. At this point, I'd really start to look at guides of people building a PC from scratch because you will see where each component goes and they tend to explain it as they go. But I wouldn't pay too much attention to the building aspect itself. This is just to get the gist of where everything goes. After that, I would start learning about compatibility, and this one's very important. Remember, PC building is a team balance game for the components, and here's what I mean by that. You can't just take any motherboard and throw in any CPU because the motherboard has this thing called a socket. And those sockets are only compatible with certain generations and types of CPUs. For example, the Ryzen 5 5600X will only be compatible with a motherboard that has an AM4 socket. That's just what they name it. If you try to place the CPU in any other type of motherboard, it just won't physically fit. There's a shit ton of sockets out there, but I will learn about the most modern ones and the ones that are really used today. On AMD's side, I'd focus on AM4 and AM5 and then start to dabble in the CPU generations that support either of them. And on Intel's side, I would focus on LGA 1700 and LGA 1851. Don't ask me how they come up with these names, I don't know either. Then I would start to understand the concept of a bottleneck, which basically means that one component in your system is too slow and it holds back the other. These bottlenecks are most common between the CPU and the GPU, and that's all that I would focus on for now. And just as an example, if I were to pair like a 5070 with a Ryzen 7 9700X, then I would quickly be able to tell you that, hey, we're perfectly balanced here. There's no problem. But if I were to pair a Ryzen 5 5500 with a 5090, then that is a horrible bottleneck. I dive into learning about the 3 main companies that make these components, which are Nvidia, AMD, and Intel. And just try to come up with some quick conclusions, like the fact that AMD makes very good price to performance GPUs, Nvidia is the best overall, but they're very overpriced, and Intel... is not great nowadays. With some exceptions, but if you go and learn about it, you'll know why. And those are things that literally anybody trustworthy in the community will say. So never take the first thing that someone says as the truth. Always confirm that information with multiple different sources. Then I'd dive even deeper than just YouTube. There are so many good research websites like TechSpot and WCCF Tech. That's where I basically read every single new article that comes out. But there's so many more like Tom's Hardware and so on, and you'll find them everywhere. And I'd simply repeat this process to build a high-level overview of what each of those companies excel at. You'll probably be disappointed by the end, but that is what it is. Don't say I didn't warn you. The last thing I'd focus on for this level is something incredibly underrated that can either make or break your PC. Having good airflow in your system is extremely important, not only for temperatures and performance, but also for the longevity of your components, and not to mention the fact that you won't have to clean your PC as often. A fan can either be set to intake, meaning that it pulls air inside of the case, or exhaust, meaning that it pulls air out of the case. There are 3 types of airflow configurations, but for optimal performance, cleanliness, and longevity, we should only focus on the first 2. Positive airflow, where we have more intake fans than exhaust, neutral airflow, where we have the same amount for both, or negative airflow, where we have more exhaust than intakes. And here's something that most people have never heard about. Negative airflow configurations are the best for cooling performance. But there are so many disadvantages, like the fact that your case is, well, basically like a vacuum and it's going to pull in dust through every single crevice, and many other things that just, for a regular person, those trade-offs simply aren't worth it. And there's also 2 types of fans, regular ones and reverse blade fans. And reverse blade fans basically exist simply for the sake of aesthetics. They do the exact same thing, it's just that they pull in air through the other part. And here I am at the end of the first level. And by this point, I am able to just look at a part list and understand what each component is doing, figure out if there's any sort of incompatibilities between them, and start spotting obvious bottlenecks. Now that I have the fundamentals down, I would really just want to go straight to level 3, where I would have the most fun, but level 2 is where the fun begins. Because by the end of level 2, I will be able to make the right decisions for any type of PC for my needs, or for anyone else's. Here's how to get so good at this that everyone will start asking you to make a PC part list for them in no time. I take the sentence and then fill it out randomly. I want to build a blank PC with a budget of blank. So let's give it a shot. Let's say I want to build a gaming PC with a budget of $1,500. So here's exactly how I would put that part list together. First, since I don't yet know what makes a PC good for gaming, I'd do a bit of research and then I'd find out stuff like get a good enough CPU so it won't bottleneck the GPU, get at least 16 gigs of RAM, focus most of the budget on the GPU because that's where the most performance will be overall, along with many other things, but I think that these 3 are good enough to focus on for now. Cool, now I just hop onto PCPartPicker.com, make an account, and start making a list right here with this blue button that says start your build. I used to say that every single time I made a PC part list for a gaming PC, I always started with the GPU, but nowadays, because pricing is so bad, I like starting with the RAM because this will tell me what platform I'll be focusing on. So I would choose something like this 32 gig of brand new DDR5 memory that goes for a shit ton of money. For the CPU, I went with the Ryzen 5 9600X, pulled by everybody's GOAT, the Thermalright Peerless Assassin. For the motherboard, I went for a Gigabyte B850 Eagle Wi-Fi 6E ATX board. Then I went for the cheapest decent 5070 model that I could find. I got a 1TB M.2 NVMe drive from Silicon Power. For the case, I went for the Lee & Lee V100R. I swear to God, guys, this case is literally a cheat code. You have a very good quality Lee & Lee case for like $75 that has 4 pre-included fans. What's not to like? And then I went for an 850 watt MSI PSU, which is a good time to mention 2 things. Number 1, with a system like this one, we would have gotten away with a 750 watt power supply with absolutely no issues. But just having a bit more power means that in the future, we can upgrade our GPU to something more powerful without actually having to switch out the PSU too. And it's nice to just have a little bit more power than you need. And the other thing, which is even more important than this, is something called SPL's PSU tier list. And you'll find the link in the description for this one. In a nutshell, this is basically a list of a lot of different PSUs, and this spreadsheet tells you if you should buy it or not. Straight up. And here's how to use it. So you open this up and then you go to main list right here at the bottom. So let's see exactly what rating this MSI power supply has. So what I like to do is I open up the PSU tier list and then I do Control and F. Then I search for MSI and then you can see that MSI is right here. Then I just need to take a good look at the naming scheme. So we have the MSI MPG A850GS. So we go MSI and then MPG right here. And then we have right here AGS PCIe 5. So back to the tier list and we can see MSI MPG AGS PCIe 5. And lastly, our power supply is 850 watts. So you can see it right here, and this is an A-tier power supply. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, for a PC under $2,000, you can get away with even like a C-tier power supply at the very minimum. So A-tier here is very nice to have, but not needed. If you do have a higher end PC though, I would never go below A-tier. And there's my PC build, but wait, it's over $1,500. I know this looks like a mistake, but it's something that I did intentionally, and here's why. It's faster to make a part list slightly above budget and then swap some parts to stay under it, because that keeps it really fun rather than stressing over each component from the start, and it also helps you squeeze as much value into the build as possible. So then what parts should I swap for this build to keep the total under $1,500? Basically, anything besides the GPU, and if we can avoid it, the RAM. In my case, a 9600X is more than capable for a 5070 to run, so I'll just look for a different CPU. And this is also to teach you one more very important thing. Pricing on PC Part Picker can sometimes be very hit or miss, so I went on to Newegg and looked for some amazing deals on some CPUs. And look at that, I found a Ryzen 5 7500F for $118. But let's just call it 120. I swapped out the 850 watt PSU for a 750 watt one. It's basically the exact same model, it's just slightly cheaper, and again, we do not need any more than this for this specific build. And then I swapped the B850 Eagle board from Gigabyte to this MSI Pro B651. And sort of just the last thing that I want to say, you're gonna see here that the total is $1,637. When I prepared the list for the video initially, the total was somewhere around $1,520 or so. But that's just how PC Part Picker is, prices change all the time here. But in reality, this entire system right here is going to run you about $1,550 if you get them from other retailers. And again, I did this intentionally to show you that this sort of situation will appear from time to time. And I like to call this weighing your options. Are you willing to spend $50 extra, or do we get a cheaper GPU or less RAM in this particular case? Most of the time, something that's slightly more expensive has much more value than something that's slightly cheaper. And you can even go a step deeper here and make multiple versions of the same build just on different platforms like AM4, LGA 1700, and see how much money you can save there and what are the pros and cons. And that's going to be very important, because next up I would focus on learning what is best for what needs. I would challenge myself again with something like, I want to build an editing PC for $2,000, but this time I would add a few things. Let's say I want to build an editing PC for $2,000, I also want to play competitive games, and I want some future proofing. Now I just have to find out what makes a PC good for editing, what's the sweet spot between editing and being able to easily play competitive games, and what I should focus on to make sure that the PC is future proofed and easily upgradable. Then I would do this over and over and over again, and by the time I had like 10 of these lists, I'd finally be able to move on to the last level. If you've been following along, this will give you such an amazing feeling by the end that you'll be hooked on PC building for the rest of your life. I know the fundamentals. I've practiced and deepened my understanding of what makes a PC good for any kind of need, and now it's finally time to put together your first PC. Time to make that list, order those parts, and put the system together for real. A few things I do before getting started are to watch as many guides as possible on building a PC from scratch. I'd get all of the tools I need, which 95% of the time is just a Phillips screwdriver, but you can get some pliers or some extra zip ties if you really want to. I know how daunting and nerve-wracking building your first ever PC is because it's expensive and you don't want to break anything, but I have a life hack just for that, just to get you started. You can look up a guide for a specific build on YouTube. Order those exact parts if you can, or as close to the build as possible, and then just follow the guide itself. That way, everything you do will be exactly the same as in the video. This has its obvious downsides, but it's a good place to start. Usually the thing that differs most between PC builds is the CPU cooler. Almost all coolers have a slightly different way of mounting them, but once you get your hands on a few, you'll see that they're quite similar, just with some small differences, and if you're ever stuck, read the manual, bro. Otherwise, 90% of the build is going to be exactly the same almost every time. I don't have a guide filmed on the channel yet, but I will in the future, so definitely subscribe and hit that bell notification icon to not miss it. There are 2 more things about this 3-level process that you can do to enhance your knowledge to, quite literally and no pun intended, the next level. You can repeat this process over and over again, but starting with a different goal. We started with the goal of being able to build a PC in almost any context, but you can dive so much deeper and learn more and more. And truly, the greatest thing about it is that you can apply it to literally any skill out there. This is how I learned pretty much everything that I know, how I taught it to other people, and it's genuinely never failed me. You will obviously have to switch some things up in a different context, but the fundamental process always remains the same. Absorb as much information as you possibly can, practice the theoretical part of it, and then actually get your hands on it. And I'm just gonna tell you guys one more thing. The best part of being a beginner is that you have the whole journey ahead of you. The best part of being a master is that the journey, frankly, never ends. But wherever you are on your journey, when your time comes, I hope you'll share it with others. Thank you for watching.